Mirimma, the caged goddess. Once upon a time, in a land of Amasiri, there was a goddess named Mirimma. She possessed unimaginable beauty and power, captivating all who beheld her divine presence. One fateful day, Mirimma fell deeply in love with a young prince, and in her infatuation, she manifested herself before him. The prince was greatly surprised by her heavenly grace and found himself equally charmed. Mirimma had the ability to appear and vanish at will, leading the prince to dance with her in their meeting place. One day, a brave maiden who dwelled in the kingdom saw the prince dancing with Mirimma, the goddess. Driven by curiosity and concern, she summoned the courage to approach the palace and inform the king of the prince's peculiar affairs. Alarmed by this revelation, the king and queen rushed to witness the prince dancing with the goddess themselves. The king, devastated by the sight before him, sought guidance from the wise chief priest in his kingdom. The chief priest suggested that Mirimma should be caged, but the king was unsure of how such a feat could be accomplished. With unwavering confidence, the chief priest assured the king that he had a plan. Their plan involved convincing the prince to lead them to his secret meeting place with the goddess, and the chief priest assured the king that he would take care of the rest. The queen, desiring to reunite her family and save her son from the magic spell, approached the prince and expressed her eagerness to meet the woman he loved. The prince, excited to introduce his beloved to his mother, shared the details of the time and place they would meet. He asked the queen to arrive a little later, allowing him time to prepare for their meeting. The queen returned to the king and the chief priest, relaying the prince's information. With the details in hand, the king instructed the chief priest and his aides to carry out their plan to cage the goddess. The following day, as the prince ventured to meet Mirimma in their usual meeting spots, the chief priest secretly made his way there as well. He sprinkled mystical substances around them, weakening Mirimma and rendering her unable to disappear. Seizing the opportune moment, the chief priest conjured the goddess into a sacred calabash and tightly sealed it shut. As if by some divine intervention, just as this was happening, the prince regained consciousness and found himself confused in the middle of the dense bush, confused and in a hurry to return home. The prince journeyed back to the palace, where his worried parents anxiously awaited his arrival. The king welcomed his son with open arms and inquired if he had brought along the woman he loved. To the prince's surprise, he had no recollection of the goddess or their encounters. It was then that the queen introduced a young maiden, chosen by the king and queen themselves, as the woman they wished for the prince to marry. Her name was Ekene. The queen stated that she had been trained especially for him. However, When the prince laid eyes upon Ekene, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. His heart did not accept her, no matter how hard he tried to convince himself otherwise. Despite his reservations, Prince Uche reluctantly agreed to date Ekene, going against his own feelings. But as time went on, he began to notice that Ekene possessed qualities that deeply irritated him. She was rude, mannerless, stubborn, and filled with an overwhelming sense of pride. All of these traits greatly upset the prince. One fateful day, while Prince Uche was taking a walk, he happened to cross paths with a beautiful maiden named Uma. Instantly, the prince felt a strong connection, and love sparkled within his heart. He approached Uma, and to his joy, she accepted his proposal of courtship. From that moment on, Prince Uche found himself drifting away from Ekene, giving her less and less attention. Eventually, Ekene became aware of the prince's affection for another woman. Disappointed and desperate, she sought help from the queen and the king, but they could do little to influence the prince's choice. They believed that it was crucial for their son to choose a partner who would truly bring him happiness. Devastated by the loss of the prince's love, Ekene recalled a peculiar encounter with a magic calabash. The king had cautioned her, warning that any harm that befell the calabash would result in the prince's death. With nothing left to lose, Ekene resolved to destroy the calabash, hoping it would somehow alleviate her pain. In a daring move, Ekene retrieved the calabash and smashed it, unaware of the consequences she would unleash. Suddenly, the powerful goddess was set free, swearing vengeance upon the king's household. The goddess struck the princess with a grave illness, leaving her weak and unstable. Not only that, but the goddess also used her powers to fill Prince Uche's heart with a deep-seated hatred for Uma. The prince became blind to Uma's love and could not be harmed by the goddess herself. The hatred within the prince's heart began to spread like a dark cloud, affecting everyone and everything around him. It grew so concerning that the royal family sought the guidance of the chief priest. Through divine revelation, the chief priest revealed that the goddess Mirima had been released from the calabash and was actively seeking revenge. Despite their efforts, every attempt to subdue or mitigate her wrath proved futile. Uma, desperate to reconcile with Prince Uche, pleaded for his forgiveness if ever she has wronged him, but he warned her sternly, unyielding to her pleas. The misfortunes that had befallen them brought great joy to Ekene. No matter how the chief priest tried to negotiate with Mirima, her wickedness knew no bounds. She struck the chief priest, rendering him unable to walk, and set out to bring ruin upon the entire royal family. Meanwhile, wandering along a lonely road, Uma walked with a heavy heart, tears streaming down her face. It was then that she encountered Ekene, who heartlessly mocked her and made fun of her pain. Determined to prevent anyone else from having the prince's affections, Ekene warned Umma that even the prince would not survive the wrath of the vengeful goddess. Umma came to know that it was Ekene who had set the goddess free from her captivity. Worried and filled with a newfound sense of purpose, Umma rushed to the palace upon hearing Ekene's words. As she entered the palace compound, she called upon the goddess in a voice enchanted by desperation. Umma sang and hailed the goddess, pleading for her to reveal herself. The gathering crowd, including the king, queen, prince, and princess, were drawn by Umma's enchanting song. With every word of praise sung by Umma, the goddess Mirima began to manifest herself. The rhythm of the song moved her, and she danced gracefully to its tune. It was in this moment that Umma seized the opportunity to plead with the goddess for mercy. She promised to ensure that people treated Mirima with the utmost respect and reverence she deserved. Surprisingly, Mirima grew delighted with Umma's act of bravery and was calmed by her sincere words. The wicked goddess chose to forgive the royal family for their role in ending her love affair with the prince, for she was a deity who could only love once in a lifetime. Mirima erased the hatred she had planted in the prince's heart, allowing him to regain his true self. She also restored the wholeness of the princess who had been afflicted by her wrath. In her benevolence, Mirima blessed Umma and granted her permission to marry the prince. Moreover, the goddess bestowed upon Umma a gift to be her eyes among the people, ensuring her honor remained intact. Filled with gratitude and remorse, the king approached the goddess with utmost sincerity. He fervently apologized for the attempt to imprison her and humbly begged for the restoration of the chief priest's health. Much to their surprise, Mirima revealed that the chief priest was already on his way to the palace, his well-being restored. Peace was finally restored to the kingdom, and the prince and Umma were married. The goddess Mirima, having received the praise she so deeply desired from Umma, departed the palace and returned to her realm, feeling content. This is Umma's story time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I am Amarachi Ihoma, the young storyteller.